Anything that you build as a solution, are you sure that that solution is solving the right problem? Whether you use waterfall, agile, whatever, you're going to build a solution. It just may not align with the solution with the problem that you're thinking. So the human-centered design process has a step built into it that's going to force you to think about the problem over and over again. And that's this define step. Problem definition is also the core of innovation. A lot of times these great solutions pop up, and that's because you understood the problem really well. So this is the process that I've found works well. It's 4 steps. You establish the need for the solution, you justify the need, you contextualize it, and then you write a problem statement. This comes from an article in the Harvard Business Review by Dwayne Spradlin. It's a company called Innocentive. They do this because they actually solicit ideas to solve problems from people outside of that engineering field. One of their key examples is, how do we retrofit our boats to clean up oil spills in the Arctic where the oil freezes over and our pumps can't pump it up? And the winning idea came from a concrete engineer. So it brought these two fields together that don't normally talk, which is super interesting. The reason why this is important is your problem statement becomes your rallying cry for your organization. Everybody from senior leadership down to the implementation team should all be able to point to it and go, yes, I agree that that's the problem we're solving together as a team. This is the value we get when we solve that problem. It also helps you get those ideas that might come from outside of your organization. So step 1. Establish a problem champion. Like I said, it's going to be a SME, it might be a program administrator, but it's somebody who understands the problem deeply. They're likely going to be charged with implementing a solution, so it's likely going to be a leader with some authority. And if they don't have the authority, make sure that they have solidly delegated authority. So sometimes you might have to talk to some senior leaders to say, hey, so-and-so would be a great problem champion. Can we make sure that they're empowered to make decisions up to this point? And as you move forward into building a solution, this person may or may not be the product manager, but they should be close to the product manager as you move on if they're not. So the first 3 questions you ask are, what's the basic problem? What are the measurable terms for the outcome? And who benefits and why? Don't jump to a solution. I know it's super hard. So then the second part is justify the need. And this is where senior leadership is going to be useful in the conversation. Is this aligned with our larger strategy? How are we going to measure the organizational benefits if we achieve this goal? And how are we going to ensure it's implemented? And that's really the resource conversation. So once you have that part of the conversation, then you contextualize the problem. This is where you look at past efforts. What have we tried before? What have others tried? And what are our constraints? This third part, the constraints, is a really important part of the conversation because that lets you know the guide rails. And sometimes you might realize that you need to remove a constraint because there's no solution if you have that constraint. Then the 4th step is you write the problem statement. This is a bit of art and science because it has to be extremely specific, but not overly technical. Meaning you can't use jargon, you can't use a lot of acronyms. Everything you've learned from your interviews, from talking to the problem champion, talking to those other SMEs, the key external users, all those interviews are going to go into helping draft that problem statement. Keep it to 1 or 2 pages and write it for an external audience that may not understand the nuances of your organization, but you want them to understand it well enough to go, oh, I see the problem you're trying to solve. Once you've done those 4 steps, then here's the really key piece of this, is you have to get all your stakeholders, from whoever the most senior leader in your organization is down, to sign the problem statement. And the reason why this is important is because a month down the line, 2 months down the line, inevitably somebody forgets the nuance of what you were solving and someone goes, I thought we were solving this other problem. You can hold up the problem statement and say, oh, no, we agreed that we were going to solve this problem, or we're going to solve these pieces of the problem in this order. Here's your signature. And they go, great. And this has been a useful tool a couple of times. The idea is just to say like, hey, are we still aligned? And what's neat about this is that second step of define. Every time you go around the human-centered design cycle, you come back to your problem statement and you go, okay, in the last sprint, we learned some new things. Is our problem statement still valid? And if it is, great, continue on. If it's not, rewrite the problem statement a little bit to reflect the new things you learned, especially if there's a big pivot. And then make sure people are still cool with it and get them to re-sign. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but that alignment on the problem statement solves so many other problems down the line.